Hello and welcome. Today's date, it's the completion of the second day of April 2020. My name is Derek. This is the Money Charts channel. All bets, trades, and of the like. Well, that's within each's own risk and their own reward. And for myself, risk reward management is always job number one. Okay. So when looking at first out of Bitcoin, we're going to look at gold and silver, the stock market, jobless initial claims. We're going to take a look at economic data as well. But we'll start within Bitcoin and the daily term, which from this decline and the big 40% down day on March the 12th, and even further down more when we include the lows the next day at 3,850, which I think was the night of March the 12th. Because I remember trading the down move just for small stakes, but I remember doing it. It was like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night when I hit this low, or 10 o'clock, whatever. From that point, it has managed to come up to this high. I've just inserted the line because that's where resistance was hit here. And I put the line here because, well, that's where you have the support coinciding with this resistance. And this low here, maybe just now upgrade it to here. We've got a total defined range within this market. 18 average, which was in the declining slope in here. It was in declining slope even before this big down move because it started to decline even back at the end of February. As it was up, we can see how it was in the sideways move and starting to leave it here like February 26th. Well, now we have a spot. We're coming to the 18 average, so it's been correctionary phase since March the 19th. It's about almost 2 weeks, approximately, pretty close to finishing that time frame. And we've seen after leaving from this newly rising 18 lows that a few days of just hanging in there within this point, but making it within today's high, as we can see on the intraday, just how fast these moves can occur. As you'd figure, coming from this low, where do we need to go to? Well, the area between like 68 to 7,100. That's exactly where the market came to. Now, is it able to hold any type of areas where it came from? Well, the first place where it came down to in here, we can see in the lows at 1600 hours, 4 p.m. Eastern time, was down to the resistance that it had for a good dozen or half a day plus dozen periods. And now we're period number 5, just hanging in there with the 18 after giving back an okay amount of the games. And now we're at an area of supporting this area of resistance. And if it can stay and support this area, it'd be supporting the resistance that it had, like the end, like the 23rd, 20 to 27th or 28th or so of March. Can we support that area for a significant amount of time? Getting above this resistance means that we can start to test this area, maybe around 8,500, but at least minimum maybe to 78, 79, I would think. But realistically, even to like 84, 8,500, if it's able to get above this area now. But so far, within these market conditions, it's holding in pretty well. Let's now move on to, let's do gold and silver next. And in such, I got gold here at 1611, which is I think it's a COMEX. It's the CFD, whatever the CFD is. And the futures. Okay, well, this is the COMEX, but the gold futures COMEX. The futures has 1637, but this says 1610. The differential is 26 basis points. I need 16 for 10%. And 16 plus 8, 24. That's 1.5. So about 1.6% of a differential. And it's higher. I find that interesting. Normally, it's pretty much the exact same price when you compare the two. Either way, the chart conditions, when we look at the hourly and dailies, pretty much look the same. And amongst it on the single hour term, we can see we have this level of resistance short term between 1593 upwards to about 1600. Right now, it managed to make a move today's session up to, in this case, that's 1620. And supporting for the last several hours as we head into one more day, Friday. And if this is able to break out above this level of resistance, then we'll talk about making a move to this previous high near 1641. We got Fibonacci above that at the 1670 handle. And when we look at this on the daily chart, this would be a very interesting situation in here because what this is doing is showing a good, very high volatile excitation situation where if it has a good gain, it would be doing so at the highs, that is the more recent highs, which would just be a phenomenal event. It could happen in like 1-2 days very easily. And the potential for monster moves moving forward at any given time, I think, is in play, because the reason I think people want to buy gold and silver is, well, they're waiting for things like, well, they're saying, well, maybe when the shit hits the fan scenarios. And, well, with basically what started this year off with the current situation, that's maybe the shit hit the fan there. And we're going through the early part of the deflationary cycles, and maybe deflation hasn't finished, and this does manage to have more downward moves before this thing really gets going. But I think that this potential for monstrous moves in the gold and silver moving forward is monstrous, is just huge. If I take a look at this on the quarterly chart, we had this type of up move here that lasted, let's just let's just look so I can see the years better. In 1976, it started this quarter with a low of 112. And then it goes up to 850. Do I see 850 up here? Can I move this? What did I just do? I think this is right. Anyway, what it did is a spectacular move higher. I'm just trying to find out what. There's a 873 this has. That's what I was just trying to find, what the high number was. 873. The low, even in here, the low was 100. So 8.7 times. And it did so in 3 years. But the last bit of this move in here, you can see this quarter here, 42%, followed by 33%. And then even around that, during the time frame, when it got up to the highs in here. But just going from a 250 to 850. 3x, 4x in less than a year. Well, if we 3x now, and right now we're in at 1600, well, that would take us to about 4,000 or 5,000 or so. 16 times 3 is 48, and then the change on that would be 49. So close to $5,000 per ounce. And then we just look at, when you break a key level, where do you expect to go? And then the areas of what I call weak resistance, and how scary it is at different situations. For the last time we came up to this area of previous high, we can see first this general area, it resisted just in here for a bit, and then would later support it in the 2008 fall. But this high of near 850, it didn't resist it, it rather supported it for a while, and then it had a good gain above that level. Well, now here we stand in the next situation at this 1900 level. As we approach it, what kind of resistance are we going to have? I consider it, because it's a very good, successful correction, how it's reacted within this time frame in here, that I deem this weak resistance, weak as in it's probably not going to be strong enough I'd want to bet it to be resistance. Meaning it doesn't go down much, meaning we get a hold in here. And going down to 1425 for a long term isn't that big of a decline. So what do you want to do? Sell it up here, go buy it back in here for the potential of getting a bit more for the huge gain? Okay, it's up to you. And then maybe all we do is just diddly around in here, and then it just goes up, like sort of like what happened before. And then maybe there's not resistance. But either way, when it breaks this level, we're probably looking at a significant leg higher. And in such, we'd be looking at moves up towards these higher levels. So if having a move where gold goes to anywhere in this ballpark area relatively soon, within the year, into the early parts of next year, would not at all be a surprise for me. And let's now take a look at silver. And we got two different numbers in here. One says 1441 or 42. The other stating $14.62, differential 20 cents. 14 makes a percent. So 7 is a half, 21. So basically 1.5% almost amongst the two. So this one, let's just take a look at this, say on, I don't know, 3 hours. Go like that. This is what one looks like, this one. See, I mean, they pretty much look the same. It's just the prices are a little bit different. Now, in the hourly time frame, it's got a nice little setup. I guess so much on the 3. But overall, as it goes down in play, where we are now, this whole general area up to even where we haven't even reached yet recently, at about 1463. And these are prices you can't buy silver at, but well, this is the prices that we have on the CFDs on silver. I'll say that's what it is. Hourly time frame. We've done a very good job at establishing this resistance. It has not been unable to break higher, but at the same point, it really hasn't. That went down. I think this general area in here is most certainly the area for the must hold. If it goes down in there, it wouldn't be a surprise if it went there fast, but when I say must hold, that means if it doesn't hold it, that means we're talking about filling and now breaking down below like in this empty space and retracing down to these lows in here. And then breaking this level of resistance, that first we enter area of like, yeah, why do you want to sell in here? Seriously, do you really want to sell in this general area like 1480, 1490, $15? Yeah, if it gets to that area there is probably, to me, a good likely event that we're going to at least get up to these levels in here. Daily chart, it's just hanging in there within the 18 from the severe down move. 5.5% one day. Then we have 6 3/4. Then down 12 4/9, almost 12.5. And then down 2.5 almost, and then down almost basically 5. And even here it was down for 4. It's 4 days in a row at small amounts, with one day being 2%. Well, a little bit of a recovery. That's all it is right now, is a little bit of a recovery. So far, though, it is holding the recovery time frame because it got there on March the 25th. So now we're like 6 or so days where it's managed to successfully go sideways without even needing to support the 18 lows, pretty much supporting the 18 average of closes. Not shown, but closes would be in the middle area of these two blue lines in here, with the top one being the weighted average of the highest prices, and of course the lowest of the lowest prices. So that's how it's calculated. It takes current price of highs. So in this case, it would take 1455 as a high and multiply that by 18. And in the previous period, it would have been 1413, multiply it by 17, multiply this high by 16, this by 15, so on and so forth, going back in reverse to the one that's just individual 1. And then you divide it by the sum of the numbers, 1 to 18. And then that's what the results come into. So that's how it's calculated. That's a front-weighted 18 average that I use. Why do I use 18? Well, it's around that period average. I don't think it would make much of a difference if I use 20. It's just, I know a lot of people were using 18 at the time. It was just a common short-term number, so I just used it and I haven't changed it. That's really as basic as it is. I just, back in like 2009 maybe, I was on freestockcharts.com and I realized I seen, when you have the moving averages, you could choose close, highs, and lows. And thinking, okay, interesting with the highs and lows. And I came up with this idea, and then, well, since I put it on, I'm like, I've never stopped using it. It's interesting how that is played into form. But that's the silver chart. As far as the futures are concerned, this way I'm going to put the other one on. I like to have this for the case of the very long term, which is in here, the 3-month chart. Because we have the 1980 high, which is matching in here, and coming back down, so far supporting where I've put this line in. Prices actually has stayed and held above this line. But for buying silver right now, we're pretty much at the highest levels we've been at for the last 8 years, even though the price is at the lower end of the range. So we're in very interesting situations. And when you're buying physical silver at all the reputable, normal, large dealers, they have long delays for things like your Silver Eagles and your Canadian Maples. All the popular coins that people want are pretty much not available anywhere right now. And what is available are selling for very large premiums. And how long those will stay available, that'll be interesting to see moving forward. And when we had the gains before on silver, this is a situation in here where we had the price action go from $1.40 up to $6.25. So $1.50 to $6, that's 4x. But every single quarter here, 12%, 16, we have a 7 and change, a 21, and the big one here was 62%. But the biggest move here came when you had 15% quarter, a 94% quarter, followed by a 73%. So when 1980 occurred, and let's just scroll back to it, the volatility was, of course, was large. And we're in situations where we could be easily seeing trend lines at higher rates than we see in here. But amongst this week in here, November 26th, it was $16, price a little higher than where we are now, still a little higher. And then over a course of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or so weeks, it got up to 50. It says the high here is 41.50, but I got like 50 to 52 even. So here we are going from like 16 and doing better than a 3x move in all of December, a short period, very short period of time in November, and a relative short period of time, a couple of weeks in January, so a month and a half, it had a 3x move. And then the rate of ascent, especially when you look at back when it was like $5, just a straight up move like this. And at any given time, that can come into play again. There was another one here, of course, the most recent one to the $50 highs in 2011. And when this is ready to go, this thing could do a major elevator ride up at any given time. And for years, I've just been talking about why you'd want to hold silver because of basically the fiat currency, how it's made, and there's going to come a time. And I'd rather be several years late in buying than try to time it all perfectly and then risk, well, not being right at all. For if you're just trying to get into the silver game and trying to build your silver portfolio, I think you got no choice but to pay their premiums and buy what you can get. And no, you're not going to get silver eagles and maples. You're going to have to get Silvertown coins, and maybe your maples are going to be, well, not, but the Canadian mint coins are going to be these 2-ounce coins and the 5-ounce and 10-ounce varieties. And if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. Not many other choices. And then you have to decide how are you going to scale in, because you could buy small to what you want to get. And well, now you're going to be at this point where maybe you're going to be forced when the price ratios get very good again, where it's going to be much higher. Because if we're waiting to get stuff like Sunshine Mints and Scottsdale and all those stuff at 12% and 15% over spot, it could be $50 to the point where you're buying for 57. That might be when it's available, or even $8. It could be $100 spot price and you're getting them at 110. And if it goes down to like 10, 8, 6, $7, I'll be very interested to see, because I don't think it's going to do that. But if it does, the physical market is most likely not going to reflect that at all. And the prices can't stay down there for that long. And with that being said, because of where we have been standing within this big decline, they can't stay. I don't think they can stay at these low levels either. They went down to $12 because everything else was selling off. And the fact that we've had this sustainable rally, not a surprise. I wouldn't be surprised if we have sell-offs coming up, like in the stock market and stuff, that before it happens, maybe we do have a good escalating nice silver move. Maybe it goes up to 17, 18, so that when the Dow Jones comes into play next, which is in at 21,400, then maybe it rallies a little bit too. Maybe it goes to like 24,000, whatever, and up in here. So when it goes up, silver has a phenomenal move. But then maybe the stock market has a huge wave lower from this 24, maybe just something like this. And then moving forward, it just goes down more. And then when this happens, maybe silver capitulates as well too. But this would be a lower low, and maybe the move would just take silver back to like $12 or $13. They'll just rise back up again, and well, we'll see. I'm not trying to make any of those type of predictions because, again, I don't think that there's these lower levels can hold too well. But I realize that whatever comes on in this world will play. Maybe the markets and these dealers will get supply soon in the next several weeks or months, and premiums will get back in hand, and we have these prices, cheaper to buy the physical commodity, even though the prices don't reflect it. Either way, Dow Jones is correcting within this and here and establishing resistance very noticeably with support. So there's a noticeable resistance around 22.4 change. Support, it originally established this level here. It's been resisting it so far. We've also established a little bit of support in here. And then the no support, this is like 61.8%, whatever from this low to this high. That would be, if we break down below where I think we'd be looking at. So you'd be looking around 19.7, 19.6 area as the next key move. If, of course, we have decent sized movement going forward. All right, then. Let's finish this off within economic indicators. And there's some interesting ones on here. Effective funds rate, initial claims, that's what I want to look at. And we'll look at a bunch of other ones as well. Actually, you know what? I'm going to look at this. Then we're going to go to the initial claims. 0.7% on the 10-year. So this interest rates have basically never, ever been this low before. And what's never been this high before, the initial claims for unemployment. 3.2 million, 3.3. 2/3 of a million or so was the high. Back in the late 70s, 1980. Came close to it again in the 2008, I would presume. Yeah, 2008. 2009 even. And now we have this. The economy has never been like this before, where a vast majority of it is just shut down. So what kind of history can I or anyone else use to determine where we're going to go from here? As so many quote-unquote non-essential businesses not being run. All starting with the Rudy Gobert incident. Now about 3 or so weeks ago, probably. And looks like we're going to be moving all the way into April this way, too. And 3.2 million. That's nearly 1% of the U.S. population getting their initial claim. There's the monthly chart. I suppose this would be the daily. But yeah, it was like 280,000 before on March 14th. So I suppose you do this bi-weekly or twice a month. But this is just crazy. It's just crazy. It's probably going to have to stay up in these little areas and shoot back down because this is initial claims, like where people applying for unemployment for the first time. We're not for the first time. They could have a first time several times over, but from a job where before they were working just recently and they just got laid off, and now they're on unemployment. Now, within the economy, there is an interesting aspects because I do believe a lot of people do make some interestingly poor spending decisions, and they're forced not to on many occasions in here. They can't go to the casino and blow a lot of coins there. A lot of times they can spend so much into sporting events that is way too much. But restaurants can be extremely expensive, so now they're eating normal, cheaper prices. Takeout isn't all that expensive, and it's definitely not as expensive, depending on where you'd have to take it. But the expensive takeout places are pretty much shut down. Or expensive places, expensive meals, because they usually are all dine-in anyway. and so many different levels of frivolous spending that is not going to be done. But there's got to be an economic law for less money or less things available to spend on with more money available is going to be a big inflation driver. We've had a lot of these governments worldwide just going out stating like price is no object. They're basically just printed out of thin air by pushing numbers on the computer, and everyone's getting their fiat currency for free, basically. Well, the inflation game, I think, is coming soon. So the shit hitting the fan scenarios, yeah, that looks like it's happening. So for all the years I've been stating to buy gold, silver, and the cryptocurrencies now, we'll see how this game plays out, because I believe if you have investing capital to tie up, which is why you don't vacate. That's what I was thinking about vacations. I was stalling up there, missing one. Yeah, frivolous spending, just going on, spending money on vacations you shouldn't spend money on. Well, that's not happening as well now too. So that is going to be probably, that's an interesting positive aspect, I think. But with that being said, when you have that type of cash where if you can afford to go on a vacation like that, that means you probably should have gold, silver, cryptocurrencies. You should have a good amount of fiat currency, and you should be at least able to pay whatever debts you have off relatively easy. That's what I believe, but that's just my belief, and that's really what it comes down to. But I think if you have those, if gold happens to work, I'm glad I got it. If silver happens to work, I'm glad I got it. If cryptocurrencies happen to work, again, same thing. As we could be living hyperdeflation during hyperinflationary times, where prices go up 4, 5, 6, 7 times. That's hyperinflation. Yet your investments go up many, many, many folds higher than that. Especially if it's cryptocurrencies. I mean, gold and silver can easily do that, especially on the silver side. But even gold. I mean, there's nothing stopping gold from going to 5 figures, in my opinion. $25,000 an ounce, why not? Reason why so is because of the fact that, let me just go to gold again on the breakout phase, because it's got a damn good yearly term time frame. If you might have seen it before on this, but that's one reason. And of course, all the fiat currency, where's the gold? There it is. Gee, yeah. Look at this on the yearly chart. So yeah, here on the monthly chart, just nice little breakout phase. But the yearly is just a phenomenal breakout setup pattern right now. As we can see, from the rally going higher to $2,000 almost, we have 3 down years. 1 year it's down 28 and a quarter. Then a small, pretty much sideways break-even year, 1.5% down. And then another bit of a down move, 10.5%. And since then, we have now had 3 of the last 4 years up years, with one pause down 2% back in 2018. But what we've seen in 2019 was how this had exitation of the 18 average of highs after a phenomenal uprise, as we can see in here, correcting within the 18 average of closes not shown, but now it's leaving that phase. So making a big, fantastic move like this wouldn't surprise me. And if things get out of hand to the point where it has like 5,000, 6,000 is just one key leg higher, or it just breezes past that, okay, that's just what happens. And when you have mark prices going up at that type of levels, if they do, then we see. But you know for sure that they're probably, at least I'm thinking the Canadian US side, there's going to be a lot of attempts at the price control mechanism, how that works out. Venezuela didn't do, I mean, it was very difficult there, and they're out of control. Price inflation first, their currency inflated out of control. And if you had gold or silver there, you're able, that was, if you're able to, I mean, you have to be good at selling, especially in Venezuela and at the times, then you're able to successfully hold your purchasing power. And again, a lot of it could work out where, if again prices go up 4 or 5 whatever times, that your values, and especially if it's cryptos, and silver going to like 4 figures doesn't surprise me either. that you could very easily be gaining on so many asset items. And yeah, that's I'm just stalling because when I said asset, I was thinking like ass, like a that, and I was thinking toilet paper as an asset. And that's why I stalled and yada yada. But yeah, just beautiful pattern here on the yearly term time frame. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye bye.